The envelope arrives just after dawn, slipped beneath the front door like an afterthought. Ethan bends to pick it up, his knees cracking from disuse. No return address, no postage stamp, just his name, handwritten in ink that bleeds slightly into the paper grain. Inside, a single slip of paper no larger than a receipt. It's time. That's all. 2 words. No signature. But they hit like a gavel. Ethan stares at the note for a long time, heart thudding in his chest like something trying to escape. The letters are neat, almost too neat, but familiar in a way that unsettles him. For the first time in years, he feels the edges of a life he buried scraping back to the surface. He closes the front door and locks it. Checks it again, out of habit. Then again, out of something closer to fear. It's been 6 years since he last spoke to his daughter. 7 since the night it all fell apart. Since the shouting, the threats, the final walk away. He thought he'd buried everything that night. But now, holding this note between his fingers, Ethan realizes something cold and certain. The past isn't finished with him yet. Ethan Banks lives in a cottage that looks borrowed from a postcard, quaint, quiet, and entirely disconnected. It sits at the edge of a sleepy town where people don't ask questions, especially about the man who never waves back. He keeps a strict routine. Coffee at 6. Ledger reviews at 7, though there are no clients anymore. Just old habits and blank spreadsheets. Lunch is a sandwich with exactly 3 ingredients. Dinner? Something microwaved. He likes the order, the silence. Most of all, the absence. He thought the past had finally stopped knocking. But today, the letter burns a hole in his pocket. He sits by the window, the unread slip of paper on the table beside his untouched coffee. It's time. The words ring louder than the birds outside, louder than his own ragged breath. He hasn't seen his daughter Mia since the engagement party. The memory floats back like a dream turning into a nightmare. She had chosen the Rosewood Hotel, all polished marble and cold elegance. Ethan had worn his only suit, still tailored from his working days. The guests were a mix of strangers and strained family, smiles that didn't reach their eyes, conversations padded with pleasantries. Then came the moment. Mia's fiancé, Darren, had pulled Ethan aside, all charm and quiet entitlement. There was a business venture, something disruptive, something guaranteed. He just needed a small infusion, 50,000, a gesture of support, a nod to the future. Ethan had said no, not cruelly, not even firmly, just truthfully. He didn't invest in family. He'd learned that the hard way. Darren's smile had faltered, and for a brief second, Ethan saw the man beneath the polish, calculating, impatient. Mia had heard, of course, and she didn't take his side. The next morning, there were phone calls, accusations, a legal letter warning of defamation, of slander if he spread falsehoods about Darren's business, as if refusing to write a check was a crime. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal, it was how easy it was for her to let go. He hadn't spoken to her since. He'd sold the house, left the firm, packed everything into 2 boxes, and vanished upstate. Even his former colleagues don't know where he went. He withdrew. From everyone. Everything. And now, someone's found him. Ethan gets up and opens the small safe in the wall behind the bookshelf. Inside are old tax files, a USB drive with passwords he no longer trusts, and a single photo. Mia at 10 years old, covered in birthday cake, laughing so hard her eyes are shut. He places the note beside it. It's time. Time for what? Forgiveness? Revenge? Closure? Outside, a truck rumbles past. Normal life, unbothered by ghosts. Ethan walks to the sink and rinses his mug, hands shaking. He's not sure if it's age or memory or something darker moving under his skin. He should throw the note away, burn it, pretend it never came, but he won't. Because he knows one thing. Whoever sent it knew exactly what they were doing, and whoever they are, they've already won the first move. Ethan dries his hands and returns to his desk. The past may not be finished with him, but neither is he finished with it. There was a time when Ethan Banks measured his life in columns, in tidy rows of numbers that balanced, reconciled, and closed. Net worth was his language, his compass. Every decision, every risk, every ounce of effort, all of it quantified. He was good at it. Too good, perhaps. Now, he measures peace differently, by the number of uninterrupted hours between sunrise and sunset, by how long it takes for the kettle to whistle in the morning, the way the sunlight creeps across the kitchen floor, in the absence of noise, of demand, of expectation. The riverside cottage is small but orderly, and that suits him. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a galley kitchen, and a window that frames the water like a painting someone hung just for him. He wakes early, still set to the clockwork of his former life. Coffee, plain, a slice of toast, no headlines, no phone calls, no one to answer to. He speaks aloud, sometimes, just to keep his voice in practice. Once a week, he drives into town for groceries and the library. The clerk at the checkout calls him Mr. Banks with a faint smile. He hasn't corrected her, even though the formality feels like wearing a suit in the woods. In the evenings, he walks by the riverbank. There are ducks sometimes, a heron, the occasional runner passing by with earbuds in oblivion. Ethan watches them go the way one might watch a foreign film. Curious, detached, uninvited. His world is small by design, quiet, safe. But some silences are not peaceful. Some are simply pauses, pregnant with things unsaid. He still thinks about them, not often, not deliberately, but in flashes. When he hears a song on the radio in the grocery store, when he sees a girl with red hair like Mia's, or someone tapping at a phone the way Josh used to, thumb fast, impatient, already moving on. Josh would be what now? 35, maybe 36. A tech consultant out west, if the last rumor had been true. Ethan doubts he's married. Josh had always been married to momentum. Mia, though, she'd been the soft one, the diplomat, always smoothing things over when her brother pushed too hard, always making Ethan feel like he hadn't completely failed at being a father, until she chose Darren, until she looked at Ethan like he was the problem. He shakes the memory off like a dog shedding rain. In his study, there's a ledger, a real one, leather-bound and unassuming. No finances, just lines of handwriting, observations, daily weather, thoughts, when he can summon them. Today's entry is short. Letter arrived. No name, 2 words. Shaken, but calm. He pauses, pen in hand, before adding, "Noticed a change in the wind." He closes the book, sets it gently on the desk. The act of writing it makes it real. He steps out onto the porch. The river is low today, revealing smooth stones and twisted roots at the edge. The wind smells faintly of pine and old soil. His hands ache, but he doesn't mind. Pain, like silence, reminds him he's still here. Inside, a photo frame lies face down in a drawer. He doesn't need to look at it. He remembers it perfectly. Christmas, maybe 10 years ago. The 3 of them in matching sweaters Mia had insisted on. He's smiling, barely. Josh has his arms folded. Mia's in the middle, one hand on each of their shoulders, holding them together with sheer will. He wonders if she still tries to fix things. He wonders if she sent the letter, or Josh, or Darren, or someone else entirely. He wonders, against his better judgment, if he wants to be found. Ethan steps back inside, closes the door quietly behind him. The silence settles again. Familiar, but not quite the same. A ledger without a formula. A ghost that doesn't knock, only lingers. Tomorrow, maybe, he'll go into town early. Walk a different path. Ask a question. Or maybe he won't. But the balance is shifting. He can feel it. And this time, the numbers don't add up. The letter sits on the mantel for 3 days, untouched. Ethan doesn't look at it directly anymore, but he always knows where it is, like an ache he can't locate but constantly feels. He's debated throwing it away, pretending it never came. But that would be dishonest. And if there's one thing Ethan Banks still respects, it's the truth. On the morning of the 4th day, he breaks. He doesn't make coffee first, doesn't brush his teeth, just walks barefoot to the mantel, picks up the envelope like it might bite, and carries it to the table. The light through the window is thin and cold. The world outside is quiet, which somehow makes this feel louder. He opens it slowly. Inside is a single photograph. No note, no signature, no explanation, just a picture. His breath leaves him slowly. It's Mia. She's sitting alone at a restaurant booth. That restaurant, The one with the red leather seats and chipped glassware. The one they used to go to every Sunday after church, back when Josh still wore clip-on ties and Mia brought coloring books everywhere. The waitress always remembered their order. The pie was always too sweet. It was the kind of place no one went for the food, but for the memory of it. And here she is again, years later, alone, sitting in the same booth. No plate in front of her, just a glass of water. Her hands are folded on the table. She's not smiling, not looking at the camera. She looks like she's waiting for something, or someone. Ethan stares at the photo until his eyes blur. The air feels thinner in the room now. He sets the picture down gently, as if too much pressure might snap the moment in half. Who took it? Why send it? Why now? He leans back in the chair and closes his eyes, trying to stop the tide that begins to rise in his chest. But it's too late. The past is coming, and this time, it's not asking for permission. He remembers her 10th birthday party, how he forgot to order the cake until the morning of, how she smiled anyway, said the grocery store one was better than any bakery. He remembers how she hugged him after, tighter than he deserved. He remembers missing Josh's college graduation because of an audit deadline he couldn't push. He remembers the silence on the phone afterward, the pause that meant, "I'm used to this." He remembers the night he walked out, how he didn't just leave the party, he left everything. Didn't wait for anyone to follow him, didn't turn back, didn't call the next day or the day after that, not once. He told himself he was drawing a line, protecting his dignity, refusing to be used. But maybe, just maybe, he was also afraid. Afraid that if he stayed, he would say something he couldn't take back, or hear something that would break him for good. The restaurant booth stares up at him from the photo, empty across from her, as if the space was saved for him. His hands tremble slightly. He folds them in his lap and stares out the window. There's a voice in his head he hasn't heard in a long time. Mia's, soft and certain, from a different decade. "Dad, you can't always be right. Sometimes it's better to just show up." He hadn't understood it then. He does now. This isn't about blame. Not anymore. Maybe it never was. Maybe it's about something quieter and harder. Ownership. He hasn't reached out, not once in 7 years, not a card, not a call, not even an email. He didn't just disappear from their lives. He made it easy for them to let him. Ethan picks up the photo again, studies it, searches her face for resentment, for manipulation, for any of the old landmines. But all he sees is a woman who looks tired of waiting. Still, he doesn't write a reply, doesn't rush to act. He's not ready. But he places the photo on the mantel in place of the envelope. He doesn't hide it. That, in itself, is new. Later that night, he opens his ledger again, writes only one line. She remembers too. The cracks are there now, small, almost invisible. But they're widening, and for the first time in years, Ethan lets them. The knock comes mid-morning, sharp and insistent. 3 raps, then silence. Ethan looks up from his ledger, startled. No one knocks out here. The mail is left at the gate. Packages are dropped without fanfare. Visitors are rare and never unannounced. He waits a moment, hoping whoever it is will take the hint. Another knock. Lighter this time, but still firm. He opens the door. Standing on the porch is a teenage girl, maybe 16, 17 at most. Her hair is tucked under a hoodie, strands of purple sneaking out near the collar. She's holding a dented laptop, like it personally offended her. "Are you the guy who fixes things?" Ethan blinks. "Excuse me? Mrs. Carson said you used to work with computers. Numbers, spreadsheets, whatever. I have a school laptop that's dying and no one else in town knows what the hell a driver update is." She says this all in one breath, eyes narrowed, but not unkind. "Can you help or not?" Ethan opens his mouth, then closes it again. The wind shifts behind her, and for a moment he sees Mia, 15, furious over a broken cell phone. The same stance, the same stubborn spark. He steps aside. "Come in." She's already clearing space at his dining table, flipping the screen open. Her name is Lila. She talks quickly, like she's afraid she'll lose momentum if she pauses. Her sarcasm is well practiced, but not cruel. I already Googled it, she says, watching him work. Apparently, it's a BIOS issue, whatever that means. Ethan doesn't respond right away. He's focused. The problem is simple. Firmware update, a corrupted file path. He's seen worse 100 times. People don't Google BIOS, he murmurs. She shrugs. I do. It takes 15 minutes. When the screen boots clean, Lila pumps her fist like she's just won a game. You're a wizard, she says. I'm an accountant. Same thing, you speak machine. She's out the door before he can protest, calling thanks over her shoulder. She comes back 2 days later with her younger brother's tablet. After that, it's her friend's phone. Then her friend's mom's printer. Then a neighbor's router. Each time, Lila drops the device off with a casual, "You don't mind, right?" As if she knows he'll say yes. And each time, Ethan almost says no, but doesn't. Word spreads somehow. Quietly, like fog slipping through the town. Devices start appearing in a small crate Lila leaves on his porch. Notes taped to cracked screens. Won't turn on. Need backup. If it's dead, just say so. He never asked for this, but he doesn't stop it either. In the beginning, he tells himself it's about staying sharp, keeping his mind busy, a harmless hobby. But something shifts. Lila stays longer now. Sometimes helps, sometimes just talks. She tells him about her teachers, her favorite books, her mother's bad cooking. She doesn't ask questions about his life, though Ethan suspects she wants to. She reminds him of Mia, not just in spirit, but in timing. Those brief years when she was old enough to argue and young enough to still need him, before things calcified. Lila's presence doesn't feel invasive. It feels like static clearing from an old radio, faint music coming through. One afternoon, he catches himself humming while fixing a shattered phone screen. It startles him. He doesn't write about Lila in the ledger, not yet, but he notices her absence when she doesn't show. Starts looking out at the road without meaning to. The house feels different, lived in, even when it's just him. He hasn't touched the photo of Mia in days, but he doesn't put it away either. Some part of him likes knowing it's there. The next time Lila comes over, she brings cookies she made herself. They're not good, she warns, but you're fixing like 5 people's Wi-Fi this week, so. He bites into one. It's dry, overmixed, terrible, but he smiles. Perfect, he says. She grins, then starts unpacking another broken tablet. Connection used to be something he avoided, something weaponized. But now, as he holds a small screwdriver between his fingers and listens to Lila ramble about a math test, he realizes his skill, once used to track fortunes and protect boundaries, is doing something else now. It's building bridges, quietly, imperfectly, but building, all the same. The shed starts with a broken bench. It's been rotting near the edge of Ethan's property for years, half swallowed by ivy. Lila spots it one afternoon and asks why he hasn't thrown it out. I don't throw things out unless they're beyond repair, he says. She squints at it, then at him. So, we're building something? He shrugs. Maybe. That's how it begins. At first, it's just the two of them, clearing space beside the cottage, sketching rough plans on napkins. Lila borrows tools from her uncle. Ethan orders a used door online and reuses scrap wood from the old deck he never replaced. The foundation is uneven. The screws don't always line up, but slowly, the shed takes shape. By the third weekend, other people start showing up. A boy named Mateo with a laptop fried by soda. A quiet girl named Jessa who wants to know how a motherboard works. Lila brings them in like a current, and Ethan doesn't protest. He just sets up another chair. No one calls it a school. No one calls him a teacher. But they come back. He doesn't advertise the shed. No flyers, no social media. It's not a business, not a cause. Still, word spreads. Someone donates an old desktop tower. Another drops off a box of tangled chargers. Kids start coming by after school, lingering even when their devices are fixed. Ethan finds himself explaining things he hasn't spoken aloud in years. How circuits carry current, how data travels, how memory isn't just storage, but process. He teaches them to code in basic Python, to rebuild machines from scratch. But more than that, He teaches them how to sit with frustration, how to troubleshoot without quitting, how to fail without fear. Sometimes they break things worse. Sometimes they fix them better than he can. Ethan doesn't mind either. Lila starts calling it the lab. The name sticks. They paint the outside a dull slate gray, then stencil a small lightning bolt over the door in white. Someone tapes a sign inside that says, "You break it, you build it back stronger." Ethan pretends to roll his eyes at the slogan, but secretly he loves it. He starts keeping a second ledger, smaller and newer than the one on his desk. But this one doesn't hold numbers. It holds names, notes, moments, lessons. Mateo learned to solder without supervision. Jessa fixed her own screen, watched her smile after. Lila asked about my daughter today. I told her a little. This ledger is different, looser, messier, more honest. For the first time in years, Ethan doesn't feel like a problem to be worked around. He isn't being tolerated or managed or humored. He's needed, not for his money, not for his name, for who he is, what he knows, what he gives, and something inside him, something long dormant responds. Not with pride, with peace. One evening, after everyone's gone, Ethan stands in the doorway of the shed and watches the sun set behind the trees. Lila is sweeping the floor, headphones around her neck. "This place matters, you know," she says without looking up. He doesn't respond immediately. "I'm not sure I meant to build it," he says eventually. "Doesn't matter," she shrugs. "You did." She turns to him, suddenly serious. "Did you always want to be an accountant?" He exhales through his nose, a quiet, almost laugh. "Number I was good at it." "That's different." Lila nods like she understands more than she should. "Being good at something doesn't mean it's the thing that makes you feel real," she says. He doesn't answer, but that night, in the second ledger, he writes, "This is what matters." Later, he sits at the kitchen table, holding the photo of Mia again. Her face is different now in his eyes. Not distant, not disappointed, just waiting. And for the first time, he wonders if he's becoming the kind of man worth returning to. The sun has just dipped behind the trees when the knock comes. Soft this time, hesitant, not like Lila's. Ethan opens the door without thinking. It's Thomas, older now, thinner. His once meticulous hair is peppered with gray at the temples. The polished confidence he used to wear like armor is gone. In its place, something quieter, unfinished. "Hi, Dad." Ethan says nothing, but doesn't close the door. "I'm not here for money," Thomas adds, hands tucked deep into his jacket pockets. "I don't want anything. I needed to talk, if that's all right." Ethan steps aside. They sit in the kitchen, facing each other across the table like two people at the end of a chess game. Neither of them remembers starting. "I left her," Thomas says after a long silence. 3 months ago. Ethan doesn't flinch. "Mia?" Thomas shakes his head. "Number Darren. I mean, Mia's still Mia. But I meant Claire, my wife." He huffs something like a laugh, tired and bitter. "Ex-wife, I guess." Ethan hadn't even known they were struggling. But then again, he hadn't known much of anything about Thomas in years. "I thought if I stayed," Thomas continues, "I could make it work, prove something. To myself, to her, maybe to you." Ethan watches his son closely. "What exactly were you proving?" Thomas doesn't answer right away. Then, "That I wasn't like you." It hangs there, sharp and stupid. Thomas rubs his eyes, suddenly exhausted. "Sorry, that's not what I came to say." Ethan nods slowly. "But you needed to say it anyway." Thomas looks down at his hands, fingers curled tight. "I was angry for a long time, about how you left, how you didn't fight for us, but I see now you weren't the only one who walked away. I think we all did, in our own ways." Outside, wind brushes against the windows. The shed stands quiet in the dusk, full of tools and half-repaired memories. "I saw the photo," Thomas says, "of Mia. She sent it to you." Ethan raises an eyebrow. "She told me. After she took it, she said, 'I don't know if he'll ever answer, but at least he'll know I'm still waiting.'" Ethan doesn't speak. The ache in his chest is too large for words. "I thought maybe I'd come here," Thomas says quietly, "and we'd have it out. Yell, argue, blame. But now that I'm sitting here, I don't want that. What do you want? Ethan asks. His son shrugs. A start. They sit in silence again. But this silence is different. Not the kind that builds walls. This one makes space. After a long while, Ethan stands, crosses to the cupboard, and pours 2 mugs of coffee. No fanfare, no grand gesture. He slides one across the table. Thomas takes it, both hands around the warm ceramic. They don't toast, don't smile, but they drink. And for now, that's enough. Thomas doesn't ask to help. He just shows up the next morning with a pair of gloves and a tool belt that looks borrowed. Ethan gives a quiet nod and hands him a paintbrush. They don't say much. At first, it's just sanding and staining, fixing the warped shelves, reinforcing the corners of the workbenches where the wood's begun to splinter from constant use. Then it's wiring a second light overhead, adding a fan for summer. A power strip gets mounted to the back wall with 6 labeled ports. Ethan teaches Thomas how to solder, properly this time, and Thomas doesn't pretend to already know. They fall into a rhythm. Sometimes, Lila joins them, chattering about her next school project or her plan to build a drone from salvaged parts. She cracks jokes that make Thomas laugh in spite of himself. Other kids peek in more often now, curious about the man working beside Ethan. Word gets around, as it always does in small towns. The whispers come too. That's his son, right? He's helping now? Maybe they're patching things up. Ethan hears them. Lets them come and go like wind through the trees. What matters isn't what people say. It's what they see. And they're seeing something new. The recognition comes unexpectedly. At the spring assembly, Lila's school wins a district award for community innovation, highlighting the student-led tech resource hub that's helped over a dozen households with repairs, education, and accessibility. Lila wears a blazer 2 sizes too big and a tie she borrowed from her brother. When the microphone screeches, she barely flinches. I want to dedicate this to Mr. Ethan, she says, voice firm. He didn't just fix our tech. He gave us a place to learn, to mess up, to feel like we matter. He gave us all a second chance, even when he didn't owe anyone anything. Ethan doesn't attend the assembly, but the certificate arrives that afternoon, brought by a teacher and signed by the district board. He reads her words twice, then he folds them gently and places the certificate beside his notebook. The shed smells faintly of sawdust and solder, a mix Ethan has come to associate with forward motion. The tools are cleaned and hung in labeled rows. The cracked screen from an old tablet sits in the bin marked Teaching Examples. Ethan sits at the workbench with a small notebook open in front of him. Not his old ledger. This one has no ruled columns, no formulas, no dollar signs. Just pages of names, moments, quick sketches of laughter. Mateo fixed the router without asking. Thomas laughed when Lila called him Intern of the Month. Storm knocked out power. We used flashlights and told stories. There are no balances in this book, only beginnings. Ethan reaches into the drawer and takes out the photo of Mia, the one from the restaurant. He studies it, not with longing this time, but with recognition. Then, carefully, he tucks it into the back cover of the notebook, right beside the folded award certificate Lila gave him. He hasn't reached out, not yet. But the space in his life is there now, open, ready. The work isn't finished. It never is. But he's not afraid of the silence anymore. He closes the notebook. On the final page, he writes, "Some debts don't need to be paid. Some just need to be understood."